We have Miss Kim Coutts with us. She is the talent development manager of our people operations team, so like HR at Vendasta, and she develops and leads the programs that support the performance and development of all Vendastians. She does a few different programs, Vendasta Lead, she does monthly leadership development programs, and the Vendasta mentorship program, which I am so fortunate to be a part of. And really, it's just a fancy mug that you get, but hey, it's a mug. She is certified leadership coach and has worked within human resources for the last 10 years, from independent recruitment consulting to working with HR teams in large corporate organizations across Western Canada. This woman is a badass. Her passion is people, and her favorite part of work she does is hearing the story behind every new person she meets and what motivates them to show up through their own unique gifts and talents. So welcome, Miss Kim Coutts.
Thank you. That was quite the intro.
We're friends, by the way.
Welcome, and thanks, Colleen, for having me. This is my first time experiencing the community, and it's evident that this is a pretty fun place to be. So hopefully I can keep you entertained and inspired and leave you with some good reflection and thoughts and plans heading into your weekend. So Colleen had reached out yesterday and said, hey, like, do you have something you could share? And I'm like, well, I have lots of things I could share, but something of value to the community would be amazing. So I'm gonna do a session today, and we're gonna do some exercises around looking backwards, reflecting in the rear view, so to speak, and then how do we move forward and execute on our 2022 plans and goals and aspirations. Hopefully there's something in this today that resonates with you and you can implement in your life. So to kick that off, I do have a slide deck. Colleen has a couple of resources, and Colleen, I don't know if you've emailed those out or not.
No, but I will, I'm going to put them in a Google folder. And then I'm going to share that link to that so everyone can access it.
Sure. So she's got some documents there, but what you will need is a piece of paper or two and a pen or a pencil, something to write with. This is going to be fun. This is going to be interactive. I'm not going to bore you, so get ready. Okay. I don't often use Zoom, so this should be interesting, me trying to share my slides. Okay. Let me know, Colleen. I have presenter view on, so let me know if how this is showing up.
I got you. You're good.
Can you see my speaking notes?
Nope, just your slide.
Okay, perfect.
You're safe.
Does anyone have questions for me before we jump in around like who I am or my role or my background? All right. Okay. Well, throw them in the chat if you do, and Colleen, you can keep me informed. This
Absolutely.
is me. So as Colleen noted, I'm a talent development manager. So all things performance, whether that's evaluations and assessments and conversations and, addressing performance challenges. And then the development, maybe like the little more fun side of my role, is really building programs, tools, and resources for the entire company, but most importantly, our Vendasta leaders, to make sure they're equipped to lead and manage their teams. I always say strong and competent leaders means you can have strong and competent teams. So they're really the linchpin in making sure that they can be multipliers for the company. I love what I do. I moved back from Calgary. I'm from Saskatoon. I'm so excited to be back here. I was out there doing some additional schooling, and super excited to be home and building this function out for the company. I'm absolutely in love with my job, so I'm super privileged to work here. So we're going to kick things off today with an exercise on, and it's a life map. And maybe some of you have done this before, but it's really, looking at our lives and looking at different moments of impact, I would say. So it's an opportunity to genuinely sort of reflect inward. It's going to help you reflect on, your life and identify stories and experiences that shaped who you are. And really the values that maybe, you have as a person in your life, and the motivations you have around learning and leading. So I will explain how this is going to work. So this is an example. This is not mine. But you can see there's this Jason here, and he's had many highs and lows in his life. So he's mapped this out on his piece of paper. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your piece of paper and you're going to draw a horizontal line right from the left to the right in the middle. And then you're going to put a 0 on the left and you're going to put your current age on the right. Colleen's holding up her example there. And then you're going to map it out. So depending on how old you are, you're going to put like say 5-year increments or 10, just so it's kind of nicely spaced. And then you're going to write at the top, happy, satisfied, and fulfilled. So that's the top half. And I can repeat this all again. And the bottom half is going to be unhappy, frustrated, unsatisfied. So the top half is kind of the positives in life. The bottom half is maybe the more challenging moments. So now you're going to take sort of 10 minutes and you're going to think about the significant events or relationships or changes that you've had, right? So you're mapping out the moments that were highs and lows. As you see in Jason's here, like he has high school, working as a consultant, getting a divorce as maybe those lower moments, bottom of the line. And then joining the army, getting his MBA, having his kids as, the positives, and obviously a multitude of things in between. So once you map out your lifeline, you're going to connect the dots and lines and show that. So what we can do is I'll give you 10 minutes to do this. It requires some thought. But firstly, does anyone have any questions or want me to clarify what we're going to do here? All right.
Kim had me do this, what was this, maybe 2 weeks ago, in part of our leadership development. And I'm like a perfectionist. So I did like not 1, but not 2, but not 3, but like 4 different versions because everything was like not spaced out correctly. So hopefully you guys aren't like a perfectionist like myself, because I couldn't handle it. But it was a really good exercise. So I hope all of you are enjoying it. So we'll give you about until 10:50, so 8 minutes.
I'm sorry, what was at the top and the bottom again? We just use the same things that are on this example?
Yeah. So the top half is like the positives, the fulfilling things, like all those like great moments. And then the bottom is sort of like maybe more the like negative or unhappy or frustrating or unsatisfying parts of life that have happened.
Kim, I have the link set up. So whenever you want me to share those extra documents, just let me know.
Perfect. Yeah, that'll be for the next piece. Or you can share them whenever. That's fine.
Just whatever, all willy-nilly.
I'm easy. Does anyone have any questions? I see some people are wrapping. Has anyone done this before?
I've done something similar, but it was a spiral shape.
Oh, interesting.
We got a question from Ryan. It may have came late, but he's asking what this is again.
So Ryan, we are mapping our life maps. We're taking a piece of paper, putting a line through the middle, and we're mapping moments of impact or moments that stood out to you within your life that are either above the line, sort of happy and satisfying and fulfilling, or below the line being maybe unhappy, frustrating, unsatisfying. From 0 on the left side, your current age on the right, and sort of, drawing a line to connect that and see your life on a line.
So Kim, what's on the x-axis?
So it is basically it's just a line through the middle of the page. So you're going to put 0 and then your current age on the right. So left and right.
Yeah, I understand that part. I'm sorry, I meant the y-axis.
Nothing. Well, you're going to map out. Oops.
Like, how do you know how high or low to go above the line across the center of the page?
It's subjective, really, at the end of the day, I would say. It's hard because it's hard to put, you can't really quantify or put a number on it, right? It's I'd say, totally from your own perspective, maybe you can compare it against other moments in your life and try to figure out, benchmark it against the other moments and see higher or lower. It's hard your first time too to know how high or low to go, but best guess is good.
Got it.
Yeah, sorry, there's no real rules.
I think that's kind of the beauty of this exercise, Kim, because we kind of go throughout life, we're just in that execution mode and we haven't really noticed like how high and how low we really have been. It's hard to quantify it, but sitting down and looking at it, it's like, that's been my journey. Like, interesting. Yeah. I'm even looking at this right now. I'm like, it's kind of interesting.
It is interesting.
High point becoming a Vendasta partner. Oh, stop. Just so nice. Brownie points for you. Okay, 1 more minute. Keto brownies. As long as they're gluten-free, Jason, I don't care. And peanut-free. And 6 other frees because I'm allergic to life.
Sorry.
Okay, glass of water. Pretty much. Okay. Kim, back to you.
Back to me. Okay. So who would like to share? I've got up on the screen, select your top 4 turning points and think about what was your greatest insight? What did you learn? what resources maybe helped you get through some of these low or high points? Was it people? Was it, finances? Was it relationships? And do any of those turning points, or those 4 kind of moments of impact that are most, that stick out the most to you, do they have any commonalities? Did anything sort of surprise you? So I don't know if anyone's interested or open to sharing. I know, there's a certain level of vulnerability that comes in sharing here. So, no obligations, but I'd love to hear if anyone wants to share.
Let's see yours, Kim.
I didn't map one.
I can share mine to get the party started. I mean, I've already showed you guys 6 times. This is mine. So I'm just gonna start here. So the greatest insight was when I left a company. It was a mining company, and I thought the grass was greener. Well, it wasn't. Dropped real low there. I had a really bad experience at a smaller communications firm here in Saskatoon. Was not a good time, and I learned a lot. Without being there, I maybe wouldn't have gotten my position here at Vendasta. But so that means that I jumped right back up. Started at Vendasta. I've been here 3 years, and this is the most incredible place I've ever been. So that's kind of my career journey. It started real low. The first low point I had in my life was when my parents got divorced when I was about 8. And then I had a friend pass away when I was in high school. So it's kind of like relationships. I see Jason, you put up your hand. Do you want to share?
Yeah, sorry for being late and I missed the mapping part, but if I'm tracking along with the insight, talking about high points and low points and insights, my high point and low point came at the same time. It was November 7th of 2018 when I died. I had a massive heart attack and was dead for about a minute and a half.
Holy shit.
When I was brought into cardiac trauma, and the doctor told me I had approximately 15 seconds left of usable oxygen, and I was about to pass to die. Those 15 seconds were the most clarifying ever. And afterwards, I had been working 80, 90, 100-hour weeks in corporate America for year after year after year. So I took everything that I had, all my life savings, and sunk it into, and by the way, when I got back from the hospital, I lived, obviously, you're not all talking, you're not all having a vision here. And I was terminated from the company for having a heart attack. They actually told me that. They said so it's, I took the proceeds from that lawsuit and started a company. And, most people in cardiac recovery don't start their own companies with no clients and no revenue, but I did. So it was the high point and the low point came together, but the insight was, don't wait to have the table set for you, set the table yourself. So, and then on Leap Day a couple of years ago, I partnered up with Vendasta, and my taxes are lower, my blood pressure is lower, my all my relationships are better. I'm running for Congress, all thanks to Vendasta.
That's an incredible story. Thank you for sharing that, Jason.
Good.
Wow.
Thomas, let's hear it.
So a lot of my lows were kind of similar where, relationships where people passed away. I too had a really good friend pass away early in life. And then another low of mine was when I was a VP of marketing, one of my top employees committed suicide. And that's one of the things you don't really think about, like in terms of a leader too, is like the impact that it has on you, having to tell everybody all that type of stuff. And so that actually was like that's like one of those key moments in my life that I really remember. Some of the highs were like, had a great job at Lowe's Home Improvement for years in marketing, also left there and did a startup and sold it to Office Depot. So selling it was awesome. A low was 2 years later after my 2-year agreement is when they're like, all right, we're ready ready to move on and take off. And so, get the boot 2 years later because, they're going to bring in new blood, that type of thing. So things like that. All of my girls being born and getting married, all those things are at highs. So those are super awesome. There's a lot. I started like writing different things. One of the things that was a high that I did remember was like being in like 6th grade and winning this thing called Skate for Heart and like winning a Nintendo, like one of the original Nintendos. I don't know why I remembered it, but man, it was cool.
It's interesting how those moments of impact can be even just like the smallest of things, but the most memorable. Did anyone ever notice as they did their life map, they actually had more growth and learning in the lows versus the highs?
I'd like to make a comment that will kind of segue with that. All right. One of the things I noticed doing this little quick map is that life is a process and there's seeds of success in every failure. And a lot of things that seemed really negative turned into something greater based on how we decided to respond to it. Jason, I appreciate your story, Ashley. And as you were relating your story, that helped me to have some inspiration to see that within my own life. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. I've done a lot of work with charitable foundations, the biggest one being the Live Strong Foundation. And I got to know Lance Armstrong pretty well over the years. And he said the #1 most irreplaceable event of his life was the day he was diagnosed with cancer. And for a guy that's had some success, that for me, it's the same. I would not trade that experience for the world. Always, you're right. You want to learn, look at your failures every single time. Every single time. Nobody ever learned anything by succeeding.
Was there anyone else who wanted to share before we flip to the next in the next?
Well, I feel when I have succeeded, I learned the feeling of success, and the state and emotion of success is important to create more success. But also within failures, you have another emotional state that teaches you how to pay attention to your intuition when you're making decisions where things are maybe foggy.
That's a good point. It's like a bounce back and forth. An affirmation, learning reinforcement, learning. Yeah.
It's the balance between the columns. So like another one is like the balance between severity and mercy. When does mercy become weakness and when does severity become cruelty? And that's something that all of us are doing in our life.
Very good point. I was diving deep into the Olympics kind of stuff and the psychology behind some of the wins, and even thinking about your successes, right? And you see these Olympians who dedicate their entire lives 24/7 to the podium and their specialty. And in those moments of success, they break down and there's a look on their faces. They're obviously happy, but 8, 9 times out of 10, it was them just thinking about the grind that got them there. It's not like entirely happiness and wow, I made it, this is awesome, taking in the moment. It's like, holy cow, like those sleepless nights and the constant grind, the blood, sweat, and tears. It's like reliving everything that success took. It's very interesting.
It's also perspective. In a couple of weeks, a lot of people are going to be standing there getting silver medals, and we're going to look at them as losers. Well, if I'm the second fastest speed skater on the earth, I don't know how I could look at that badly, but yeah, I'm cool.
Well, competition has its place because we're looking at measurables to see how someone has developed over time with their training. And there's a level to that that's healthy, but when it becomes the only thing that we're trying to achieve, becoming greater than another person, it can be very quickly become an unhealthy thing. And it's up to us to have some discernment and some wisdom between when our competition is being a healthy mechanism versus an unhealthy mechanism, and then making adjustments and calibrating accordingly.
I would share here, this is very interesting, and I can't wait to lay this out on a big wall. But my point in time, and I have many decades more than some people there, but I moved back to Ohio by myself to be closer to family 2 years ago. It's interesting that nobody has mentioned COVID in this conversation. But it's been amazing. But I got to tell you, and Colleen, this is not to suck up to you, but I think one of the highest highlights for me, and I've been with Vendasta a long time, has been the evolution of this group, and actually the fact that it's here, and the fact that you've got some amazing people here. Daniel, were you a psychiatrist in another life? You know,
I was told an Egyptian priest and a warrior king.
Cool. But, you know, a lot of offshoot groups have developed. And I think by allowing us to work with other people, and, you know, we have a group and our motto is, you know, there's plenty for all. You know, high tides sail all boats, and either reach down and pull somebody up or reach up and ask for help. And to Daniel's point, you know, you're not always trying to be better than somebody or beat somebody out. So thank you.
Julie, you're gonna make me cry. Okay, Kim.
The motto of Fitbit, the Fitbit company motto is beat yesterday.
There you go.
Mhm.
I like that. Well, that's actually a really good segue into the next part of this conversation, which I think you'll all appreciate. And that's, is anyone read Atomic Habits? Familiar with the concept or the book?
Currently listening to it.
You are currently listening to it. Well, I hope I know.
So good.
Anything
In my list, we talked about it last week. That's funny that it's come up. 2
Oh,
weeks in
did
a row.
you?
Yeah.
It's actually why I started listening to it, because of last week's conversation.
Someone was promoting it heavily.
This is perfect.
I'm gonna share the link now, Kim.
Sure. Okay. So for those of you who haven't read it or aren't familiar, it's really about building habits to reach your goals. So one of the most important concepts from the book is when James says, you know, you don't rise to the level of your goals, rather you fall to the level of your systems. And so what that means is if you want better results, you know, don't hyper focus on the goal, you know, focus on putting the right system in place to achieve that goal. And so, you know, kind of piggybacking on what we were just talking about, you know, every Olympic athlete, they want to win that gold medal, right? They dream of winning. But that doesn't really impact or influence their performance. Their training does, their nutrition, their sleep, their rest, their hydration, right? They have to have the right system in place to achieve that gold medal or silver, bronze, whatever. And every applicant, you know, for a job opportunity, they all want to, you know, get the job, right? That's the goal. But yearning for that opportunity isn't what grants them the role. It's their knowledge, their skill, their experience, preparation for the interview, right? Those systems really allow them to reach that goal of getting the job. So as you start to curate your next big goals for the year, and I'm sure a number of you already have those in place, I think, you know, it's important to remember that your goal is your desired outcome, and your system is really that collection of daily habits to get you there. So this is the compound interest of self-improvement, right? So the same way money multiplies through compound interest, the effects of your habits actually multiply as you repeat them. So like if an airplane changes its direction by even 1 degree, it's going to land in a different location. So a slight change in your life can actually guide you to a different destination as well. And so the success too is a product of those daily habits, you know, not that once in a lifetime transformation, but rather, you know, time magnifying the margin between success and failure, and it really multiplies whatever it's fed. So most people have this desire for immediate gratification and, you know, like in the current presence, but which really delayed gratification, however, is the future. And so short-term gains actually have longer lasting negative consequences, and long-term gains give you those long-lasting benefits. So I show you this slide just to show you how that compound interest of self-improvement can really take off if you put those right habits and systems in place. So in the book, and I don't want to spoil this for anyone, but one thing they do talk about is the Japanese railway, and they use this system called pointing and calling. And so the Japanese railway system is actually regarded as, you know, one of the best in the world or best in class. And this was a safety system they brought in to reduce mistakes. So pointing and calling actually has reduced errors on that railway system up to 85%, and it's reduced accidents by 30%. So what happens is, as each operator runs the train, they proceed through this ritual of pointing at different objects and calling out commands, and every detail, you know, whether it's the operator saying signal is green or the speed of the train are all clear on the platform, every action is identified, it's pointed, and it's named. And that's really the 3-step sequence that is this pointing calling system. So it's really raising the level of awareness from a non-conscious habit to a more conscious level. And they continue to use it to this day. So habits are really the path to changing our identity. The most practical way to change who you are is to change what you do. So every time you read a book, you're a reader. Every time you work out, you're an athlete. And each time you coach or give feedback, you're a leader. But new identities definitely require some evidence. So if you keep casting those same votes you've always cast, you're going to get the same results you've always gotten, right? And if nothing changes, nothing's going to change. So how can you do this? So James talks about, you know, decide on the type of person you want to be, firstly, and then secondly, prove it to yourself, right? So implement small wins, small habits every single day to become that person. So he says every action you take is a vote for the person you wish to become. That's kind of how he you know, summarizes it. So keep in mind, you know, habits aren't about having something, they're about becoming someone. So it's really manifesting and bringing to fruition who that person is through those habits. And let's think about that as we do this next exercise. So Colleen sent you a link. You'll have the PDF, or flip over your Lifeline and just use the back of your sheet. What you're going to do is I'm going to give you 5 minutes, and you're going to actually list out all your daily habits. So from the moment your alarm clock goes off and your feet hit the floor to the moment you jump back into bed, think about every single thing that you do in a day. I don't care if it's like brush my teeth, fill my Cheerios in my bowl, whatever it is. Break it all down. And then beside each habit, you're going to put whether it's positive, negative, or neutral with a symbol. And then we're going to come back and talk about it. So certainly you can reference the PDF that kind of explains it in a little bit more detail, but it's really a list of habits. So we will reconvene here at 13 after. Did anyone have questions, sorry, about any of that?
I'll share one of my habits, and I thought this was a good habit until I shared something with someone else. So every morning I either listen to the news or some type of professional development podcast. And I was like, yeah, absolutely, that's a positive habit. And then when I shared it with someone, they said, you know, you should just stop listening to the news. It's not a great way to start your morning when you're listening to something probably horrible that happened. If you're going to listen to a news, go somewhere and listen to something positive that has happened in the world, or just skip the news altogether and save it for later, because first thing in the morning, it's not something you really want to wake up to. So now I stick to Audible. Crucial Conversations is what I'm on right now. So
it's a great book.
Great book.
Lots of those all the time. I threw up a scorecard here just if anyone wanted to sort of see how it's laid out. Didn't have the PDF. So I guess one thing I will say is, like, you know, habits aren't generally good or bad. I would say it's like more just, are they effective? So as you complete this, you know, you can categorize them by how you might be, you know, benefit you in the long run. I guess that's how I would sort of think about it. And generally speaking, you know, good habits have net positive outcomes is kind of how you can think of it. So, you know, smoking a cigarette, maybe that reduces stress right now, but long-term, probably not the best decision. And I guess, you know, if you're struggling to rate a habit, you know, think, does this habit help me become the type of person I want to be? does that cast a vote for my desired identity? That's kind of how you can think about it.
I have a hand raised 400-705, or yes, 400-705. You're probably dialed in, and that is your name as a robot. You have your hand raised. Did you want to add something?
Specifically, who's your web host?
No. We're just only going to go.
I didn't even realize I did that. My apologies. I was putting stuff in the chat.
Anything to share?
Well, I mean, my personal experience that I've been through, I've just realized, I'm going through like my own spiritual journey as it is now, and my view on how the world is basically, I don't know the answers to life or how life is or the answer to everything, but I have a better understanding of how life is now. And, I feel like I said, like all of our lives are karmic. We all go through, life is based on, to me, it's like choices and decisions that you make. So of course, if you're consistently making a choice, you're going to receive that outcome. I mean, there's going to be an outcome from that. And, I feel like universally, wherever you put out into the world, you receive back universally, basically. And so if you're doing nothing but negative things, you're going to receive nothing but negative things. So if basically, if you do nothing but positive things, you're going to receive nothing but positive. But there's also those times and moments where, you're doing nothing but good things, positive things, and then something bad happens to you. What do? Do you do what typical human beings normally do? Match it with more negative energy? Absolutely not. Do the unthinkable. Kill it with kindness, kill it with positive thinking, kill it with all that, because then that's where you really reap the rewards. I feel like if you was able to definitely master that, because human beings we're very emotional, very fickle things. So we don't really think clearly when we're emotional. So of course, I feel like in a whole, it's basically all has to do with the same thing, basically, because being positive, being negative, it all runs in the same boat, basically. But yeah, like, for example, I started my business April 14th, 2020 by myself, still by myself, but yet I've gained so much with that because everything behind it, I've been nothing but positive. A lot of accomplishments I've gained through the year. I started my business through the pandemic, basically. I experienced homelessness 3 times throughout 2020. And then in the same year, I was nominated Entrepreneur of the Year twice first 2020 and 2021 at the Chamber of Commerce. So, it's just like a lot of, like I said, when it comes to now, of course, I'm not homeless anymore. Obviously, I have my own house now, but just like, that's a living proof and a living testimony and example of how you should definitely, not telling you how you should live your life, but just being suggestive, like, even if you're going through hard times and struggles, you should definitely still be positive about the situation, because really you're just being tested. I feel like everyone's being tested of the resolve, and really, I hope everyone gets an A. But yeah, that's basically how I feel about the situation. I kind of came in at the awkward time, so I didn't know completely. I was listening, but then I figured I was bringing up something that was relative to what you guys were talking about.
No, thank you for sharing. Kim, do you want to jump to the next?
Yes. Okay. Does anyone want to share anything around, what they found to be insightful, or what changes they're going to make to their habits or their system to move them closer to achieving their goals? Any realizations, reflections?
I appreciate being introduced to this book and the connecting journal, because this was actually a 2022 goal for me. Is at this point in my life, I'm organizing my routines. So I had the major sections: the startup, the self-care, the warm-up, action steps, review, cool down, and then restore. And each of those I've broken down into additional sections. So what I'm doing as soon as I'm waking up to get my mind focused where I want it focused, taking care of some of my physical needs so I can be presentable, starting the warm-up for business, so business audios, different things like that, reading books, different things like that, action steps, what are my next logical steps to accomplish my actual goals, and then taking actual steps on those. At the end of the day, reviewing everything I have done for the rest of the day, and then what I'm going to do the next day. and then go through a cool down period where I'm going to relax my mind and prepare myself for sleep and restoration over the evening so I can get up and do it all again. And all of that has actually subcategories too. So like some of it has to do with what I'm doing nutritionally. Some of it has to do with what I'm doing to work out my body, different reading schedules and breaking down those subjects. So I'm kind of excited to take this little journal they've got going on. I think I can get this really organized over the next 12 months. So I'm excited about that.
Jason, you have your hand up.
Most of the time. So I would say my offering is to do, from my experience, is in a world of more efficiency, structure, add things, more productive, level up your game, all these other things, read a book, listen to a podcast, blah, blah, blah. I would suggest everybody put aside a certain amount of time in your day to do some stupid shit, to waste some time, to do something that is not connected to anything productive. Watch a video, laugh like an idiot, go just stare at the wall, like Daniel just said about recuperation and rest and to reflection. We are in this day and age especially taught that look back at your day, how productive was it, you know, adding this, et cetera, et cetera. And that's okay. That's all great. That's, you know, as in the Dead Poet Society, they said, you know, business and medicine and accounting and mathematics are all important, but poetry and art and music are also, that's what we live for. So while we're all doing these things and reading these books, take 5 minutes to find a comedian online and laugh like an idiot. Because if you don't, you lose sight of the fact that without the mortar, the bricks all fall down. And the mortar in between them is the human moments. You know, Coach Jimmy Valvano, rest in peace, he said there's 3 things you got to do every day. You got to laugh, you got to cry, and you got to think. And just get into what in between all these bricks, these important things. Do something, eat some pie, you know, just do something, because that's an important part too, and it gets looked over a lot.
I agree with that 100%. Actually, it's a yin-yang principle. You've got to have the push and you've got to have a little bit of pull. You got to generate and you've got to recoup a little bit. And I think in the American society, we got so programmed into just production. And then we slowed down during COVID. It's like the whole society had gotten to a point to where we were all stressed out and we got to step back a little bit and breathe. And now we're seeing new ways to move forward. And one of the things that gives me a lot of hope for humanity is our ability to solve issues. And that's another thing that I really like about the Vendasta platform. I'll stop there.
You guys are all incredible. Kim?
Okay, we can bring this full circle here. All right. Well, thank you for sharing. I appreciate that. Sounds like some of you have started to read or have read the book. So hopefully this can just be something to layer on to that. And the book will allow you to explore this in depth. This is something that he talks about too, the 4 laws of the habit loop. And Daniel probably knows this better than I do at this point. But it's, you know, to create a good habit, firstly is a cue. So make it obvious. Secondly, the craving. So make it attractive. You know, there's a motivational force behind every habit. The 3rd law is the response. So actually make it easy, right? So that it's not hard to do or achieve. And 4th, the reward. So make it satisfying, the goal of every habit. So I just wanted to share that as sort of a quick mental model around how to do this. These are just a few books that I would recommend if you're more interested in diving into how do I build the right systems and daily habits to get me to where I'm going. The Power of Habit is a good one. Tiny Habits, BJ Fogg. I read that actually in my MBA program. I took a class in mental toughness, which was really interesting. And they had us read this book. And I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. But no, it was life-changing. And it was about finding ways to not add to your life, but replace. And so my goal that summer was to drink more water. And we were in a heat wave. I was like, okay, how am I going to do this? So every time I walked into my kitchen, I had to have a glass of water sitting there ready to drink. So before I left the kitchen, I would leave it there filled up. So every time I walked in, it was just like, I didn't even think. So, I mean, you know, the trips to the bathroom just like quadrupled, of course, but I achieved my goal of, you know, drinking more water solely because every time I went into that kitchen, I knew that it triggered the next behavior. So it's just kind of interesting. You know, I know some people, I brush my teeth, I do 15 squats, whatever. So it's finding those things that you can replace or you know, multiply. And it's just an interesting concept, which, you know, James kind of alludes to as well. So anyway, some good resources here if you're interested in diving deeper into habits to achieve goals. And that was all I had today. But does anyone have questions or comments? Anything for me or anything we want to chat about before we part ways?
I appreciate the time that you and the Vendasta team are putting into these classes or whatever we want to call them. I know that takes a lot of thought and energy, so thank you for taking the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
I agree with Daniel. I would say this is an example of how you should have a team or support team. Everybody needs a coach. You know, the team that wins the Super Bowl goes right back and starts training camp again because you keep learning new stuff. And if there are people on this call that, you know, we're all in similar situations and we can help each other, or the rising tide can help each other, and we might be experiencing the same problems or whatever. But if there's a song by Yes from about 68 years ago called I don't remember the name of the song, but it's the line in the song is "Don't surround yourself with yourself," and it's important. We live in an echo chamber now. People listen to the news broadcast that's going to tell them what they already thought or agreed with. People are going to read books that are going to reinforce what they already thought. Go outside your comfort zone. Say hi to a stranger. You know, I see a lot of strangers on this call, which I'd love to have a conversation with. And, you know, you can find it in the most obvious places and the most unobvious places. So it's always a good habit to get into.
Awesome. I love that. Strength in numbers and obviously leaning on one another as a community, and so grateful to have been invited here today. So Colleen, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
Oh my gosh, I think I speak for everyone when they say thank you. Does anyone want to like see Kim again or anything you can put in the chat if you do? I mean, she has a bunch of these up her sleeve. She's a great resource for Vendasta. So once I went through this exercise with her and, you know, David wasn't able to make it, I stormed up to Kim's desk and I said, I need you, buddy. And she didn't disappoint.
Well,
Kim
hey,
equal
anytime.
Vendasta Spear Guide. Yes, she is.
How would
the
you surprise
spiritual
us?
Okay.
Surprise you. Easy, done.
If it's
Surprise.
meant to be, it will be.
Does anyone else want to share anything before we say goodbye?
Well, Jason, feel free to reach out to me. I don't know how you would want to connect, but I would be interested in having a conversation with you and anyone in the Vendasta team. My communication channels are open, so feel free to reach out anytime.
That's awesome. You can connect in the community. That's a really easy way. If you're not there, get there. I also say LinkedIn is a really great resource for connecting.
Can I ask
I just
a quick
want
question?
Absolutely.
Colleen? Hey,
Yeah, absolutely.
Jason, or I forget the other gentleman, Daniel. How long have you guys been with Vendasta?
I have been with Vendasta for 2 years.
Actually, I thought up the
Awesome.
idea with Brendan. I was in his living room. This was about 13 years ago. And Brendan said, no, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Leap day, actually. Leap day of 2020.
Awesome. I think, yes, sir, you did say that early on. Okay.
So I
awesome.
only pay my fees every 4 years.
No, I
Oh,
just think
gosh.
it's great to hear you guys actually, using the system for what it is, and that is, really making connections and also, trying to connect outside of the community as well. So just thought it was amazing to hear you guys converse.
Everyone at Vendasta has been quality, from meeting Josh to Dakota, everyone all the way through has been quality. And it says a lot for the company culture of those that are sitting on the board, the management team at top, and how they're recruiting and who they're choosing to be there. And I really enjoyed that there's such a large privately held company that's still focusing on protecting local businesses. And with some of the things that have happened over the last few years and the supply chain issues, I think there's a big opportunity for local businesses to provide more services to their local communities. So I think we actually have an opportunity here as opposed to less of an opportunity against Amazons and all those types of big companies. There's actually a way for us to help local businesses to still be relevant moving forward. I think it's very beautiful. Very well timed.
I didn't pay him to say that, you guys. I didn't.
I'm-
But I
I'm
have the
very-
recording and I'm sharing it with everyone.
I'm just grateful to, I'm being 100% serious here. I'm grateful that your company's Canadian, specifically Western Canada, because as a native of Brooklyn, New York, I can tell you if Vendasta was centered in Brooklyn, New York, it would have no use for almost anybody. But everybody's friendly. They want to know how they can help. They're not
true.
living life at a million miles an hour. We've all had our people that have helped us along the way. I had Spencer and Jeff and Mike Donauer has been great for me now that he's out of prison. I think he's been a big asset. And every time your company helps me, I like to give back to Vendasta, because if I can help you guys as a platform be more responsive to us, we all get better. And it's been my company probably would not exist if it wasn't for your company. And by the way, there have been times where I had to fight for that. My first 3 months of Vendasta was horrible, a waste of time and money. And I bitched and complained, and I went from one person to another, and it got better and better and better. It was great. It was just great. And that everything you guys do that's an announcement now is looked at with anticipation, as opposed to what's the next sandbag on my balloon. This is just, it's been great.
Okay, well,
That's so nice.
I was gonna say I paid Jason for that, but
yeah, but she paid me in Tim Beebs, so it doesn't count.
Tim Beebs.
Okay, everyone.
Really quick, Kim's LinkedIn is in the chat. I would strongly recommend following her, just because what she spoke about today, she's constantly posting about as well. I also added a link to Gretchen Rubin's podcast episode talking about sustaining like your own unique happiness. We talked a lot about habits today, and Gretchen talks about actually that self-awareness, self-assessment, and how to implement habits with respect to who you are as a person. We're not going to all implement them the same way. And Kim kind of reminds me of Gretchen Rubin in that way. So don't sleep on that LinkedIn link. I highly recommend it.
Oh my gosh. And he's exaggerating, but hey, I appreciate it. Thank you. And yes, anyone add me on LinkedIn, all things performance coaching and development. I'd love to chat, connect, have a virtual coffee anytime. So
Thank you all. We are so grateful for you attending today. Love, love, love talking to all of you. So really, you just made my day, especially Julie. Okay, have a happy weekend. Stay safe, and I'll see you next week.
Have a good weekend.